Well, good morning, and welcome to the Unitarian Society of New Haven, for those of you here in the sanctuary as well as online. I am Rich Stockton, a member of the Worship Committee and your worship associate today. You can refer to me with the pronouns he and him. If you're joining us for the first time, we're so glad you chose to spend this time with us. We are a diverse, multi-generational faith community that inspires lives of compassion and generosity, nurtures spiritual growth, cultivates transformative connections, and creates a more just world. This is a congregation that believes Black lives matter and that all people are inherently worthy. Newcomers, please stop by the welcome table if you haven't already. You can also contact us by email at membership@usnh.org, or you can go to our website, usnh.org, to find out more about us. We're deeply grateful for those who make our service happen. Our tech team, Paul and Rob today, and our entire Sunday morning welcome team. Our musical guests today at the group Meeting House. And we're honored to have a guest minister today, Reverend Lawrence Smith. Now, Reverend Smith was appointed Director of Stewardship and Development at the Unitarian Universalist Association in February of 2019. She oversees the UUA's fundraising efforts, including annual program fund contributions from member congregations. Lauren's ties to Unitarian Universalism stretch back 5 generations. Her great-great-grandfather, William Hazel, was born a free Black person in North Carolina, became a member of the first parish in Cambridge after his family fled north prior to the Civil War. Her UU connections stretch into the future as well. She and her husband, the Reverend Chris Holton Jablonski, have 3 children, ages 7, 12, and 15. Thank you so much for joining us today, Lauren. Other announcements. The Worship Committee is pleased to announce that next Sunday's multi-generational service will feature a presentation by educator and Native American storyteller Darlene Kazek of the Chattahoochee Tribal Nation. In order to provide for an uninterrupted presentation by our guest, our service will be structured differently, so with more familiar pieces at the beginning and the end of the service. We hope you'll join us next Sunday in person or online for this opportunity to listen and to learn. Today's service marks the start of this year's stewardship campaign. The time will make our pledges of financial support to USNH for the next fiscal year. This week, you'll be receiving a letter or email from the stewardship team with campaign information and a pledge form. Be on the lookout for it, and please open it. To aid next year's budgeting, please complete your pledge form as soon as you can. And don't forget next Saturday's kickoff party here at USNH. It begins at 4 p.m. with an hour of scintillating entertainment, followed by superb pizza from the New Haven food truck. Family-friendly fun is guaranteed. See posters, newsletters, and emails for more information. And note that we will be observing USNH's mask policy with masks optional in the social hall. Now, please make sure that your electronic devices are silenced. And let's take a deep breath. And let's enter into worship together.
Good morning. It is so good to be with you this morning. It's just a pleasure always to be in a congregation on a Sunday or any day of the week when a community is gathering. It's just a pleasure. And a special thank you to all of the religious educators and volunteers in the house. Are you? thank you. And thank you to all the stewardship volunteers also. You hold really important ministry in this congregation, so thank you. So our call to worship is from the Reverend Gretchen Haley. For this one moment, know that you are loved, that you are safe and whole and loved. Know that you belong here, here among us, here upon this earth, in your body, however tired or broken your heart may be. Whatever fear, disappointment, anger you carry, for this hour, know you are not alone. Feel the presence of others surrounding you, breathing beside you and with you, discovering the way our voices rise and fall together in harmony and hope. Claim here a resilient freedom, the choice for love, for light, to live with joy and gratitude and praise as a form of resistance. Already we are organizing. Come, let us worship together.
How rare it is, how lovely this fellowship of those who meet together. As we light our chalice, symbol of Unitarian Universalism, may we be reminded here of our highest aspirations and inspired to bring our gifts of love and service to the altar of humanity. May we know once again that we are not isolated beings, but connected in mystery and miracle to the universe, to this community, and to each other. Covenant lies at the center of how Unitarian Universalism gathers in community. We are united not by a particular set of beliefs, but by promises we make about how we will be together, how we will treat each other, and how we will seek to mend relationships when we fall short of our aspirations. While the following words express our intentions in writing, our true covenant lives and breathes in our actions. So please join me now in reciting these words that are in your order of service. We covenant together to create and nurture a culture of respect and kindness, and to engage in the spiritual and everyday practice of loving more generously. To this end, we will strive to be open, value differences, listen deeply, speak our truths, work with conflict, seek humor and joy.
My name is Sharon McBlain. My pronouns are she, her. This morning, please join me in singing hymn number 318 in the gray hymnal. Excuse me, page 318. What did I say? Excuse me. And it is, We Would Be One. Whew. Please rise in body and in spirit.
Please be seated, my friends. My name is Jesse Greist. I'm the Director of Lifespan Religious Education here. And I wanted to take you back for a moment to, I believe the year was 1989. I was sitting in class just up that hallway, and I was in the neighboring faiths class. We'd been talking about lots of different religious faiths that can be found here in southern Connecticut. But we were in the lesson that was talking about Unitarian Universalism. And the teacher, whose name I will not disclose at this moment, said that USNH is a nonprofit organization and asked if any of us knew what that meant. I thought back to the previous few weeks, and I eagerly raised my hand, and she said, Jesse, yes, what is a nonprofit organization? And I said, I believe USNH is a nonprofit organization because we do not believe that Jesus or the Buddha or Muhammad were prophets or messiahs. Rather, we have this idea that they were these great teachers with a lot to share. After this teacher got through crying, she explained to us that a nonprofit organization, when you spell it a little differently, is an organization that doesn't look to make money. Yet it depends on donations from its members and from people who come through the doors to do the important work that it does. A nonprofit organization might have the end goal of social justice, might have the end goal of environmental justice, might be a religious organization that also does social justice. So when I think about us entering this time of stewardship, I think of two stories or inspirations immediately. One comes from the Christian scriptures. There's a story in Luke where it talks about everybody going to put their donations into the collective pot for the week, into the treasury, and it reads as follows. And he looked up and saw the rich putting their gifts into the treasury. And he also saw a certain poor widow putting in 2 mites. Mites are a kind of coin that used to exist. So he said, truly, I say to you that this poor widow has put in more than all. For all these out of their abundance have put in offerings, but she out of her poverty put in all the livelihood she had. I thought about that last phrase, putting in all the livelihood she had. Immediately, when I reread this week, I thought of one other moment in time. When I was beginning my teaching career out in Phoenix, Arizona, I walked into my first classroom and was shocked to discover that we had 3 pieces of carpet held together by duct tape on the floor of my classroom in South Phoenix. And these 3 pieces of carpet, there were no tables, no chairs, no markers, no crayons. There was one television set that had been donated to us by Motorola. So we did what my faith training had taught me to do. We held a fundraiser. I brought my class out next to an on-ramp. Our school was located right next to the Interstate 10. And we took a day and stood out in the Phoenix sun, and we collected donations. And on the day we were going to do this, my 32 kindergartners and I went out into the sun, and we started standing there, and the first few people drove by and either gave us monetary donations, or some people had read about this fundraiser in the newspaper and brought us things like crayons and pencils, markers. And one of my students, a little girl named Reina Castro, kind of sidled up to me, and she took out of her pocket 2 pencils that were about this long. They had obviously been used for a really long time, and she said, "May I donate these to the class?" And again, the thought that flooded my head was, she had put in all of the livelihood she had. So as we enter this time, this sacred time of stewardship, I ask you to think of the widow and the two mites. I ask you to think of Reina Castro. And I say to you, whether you are blessed with abundance and share of that abundance, or are blessed with two mites or two pencils, the important thing is that we're in this together as one loving community. And instead of profit, with your help, you will help keep us prophetic for one another. Children and youth, will you please come to your classes with me at this time, and let us sing them on their way with words that are in your order of service. Our roots go down, down to the earth. Our roots go down, down to the earth. Our roots go down, down to the earth. Our roots go down. Our roots go down, down to the earth. Our roots go down, down to the earth. Our roots go down, down to the earth. Our roots go down.
I now invite you to join me in holding in our hearts the joy and sorrow of those in our community. Some of our joys shine more brightly as others reflect our delight, and some of our burdens are made lighter as others help us carry them. Today we have a joy to mention. Jane and Dick Platt will be celebrating their 58th wedding anniversary on February 20th, or tomorrow. That's great. For all the joys and sorrows, both large and small, both spoken and unspoken, we bear witness. May we open to this moment just as it is. May our hearts be at ease with the conditions of our lives. May we open to the flow of joys and sorrows with understanding and equanimity. May it be so.
I invite you now into a time of meditation or prayer. Allow your body to settle into your seat, your breath to drop down into your belly, and your attention to rest just here, in this body, in this moment, in this good company. I had words to offer today, but I think I'd just like to offer a prayer from my heart. Spirit of life and love, be with us. Be with us in times of joy and celebration of years of marriage, of love. Be with us in the hardship that is in lives in this room, in relationships, in society, in communities. Be with us as peace, as wisdom, as compassion and love. And in a turbulent time, in a changed time, where things are unexpected and things are in motion and changing, be with us as peace, as equanimity and ease. Be with us as an impulse to generosity and joy. For all the gifts of this place, all the gifts of life and community which doubles sorrows and doubles joy and halves sorrows, we give thanks this day. For all that we have been given, and all that is given to us to do, we give thanks this day. Amen. Let's hold a little bit of silence together.
As we begin our stewardship campaign, we have so much to be grateful for, and we have so much to offer to each other. The campaign is an annual event, and we'll talk about pledging, but every week we'll continue to lift up the spiritual value of generosity by asking for your offering for the ministries of this congregation. You can go to our website, usnh.org, under Donate, or mail to our address, 700 Hartford Turnpike in Hampton, Connecticut. Or if you are here in person, you can place a donation in the plates held by the ushers in the back of the sanctuary. Now, please join me in the responsive reading number 727 in the gray hymnal. You can read along the words that are in italics. This is called The Bread We Share by Rudolf Nemser. The bread we share this day is sacred. The friendship we share this day is sacred. The laughter we share this day is sacred. The stillness we share this day is sacred. For bread, for friends, for joy and sorrow, for the comfort of quietness, let us ever be grateful and caring.
Castles in the air, together hand in hand, everywhere.
think that you have a very fancy... Oh, I think that's as low as it goes. I'm just short. The only refuge for a person is in another person's heart. Therefore, I must make of my heart a swinging door. The Reverend Dr. Howard Thurman said that sometime in the 20th century. He was Martin Luther King's mentor. The only refuge for a person is in another person's heart. Therefore, I must make of my heart a swinging door. This is why we gather in religious community. This is why we return, why we connect and reconnect, commit and recommit to religious community. This is the reason for places like the Unitarian Society of New Haven. It's become a bit of a joke in my family, my tendency to launch into song with very little prompting, and my tendency to turn to certain songs on repeat for a very long time. I belt out a tuneless but exuberant bit of the Schuyler Sisters anthem in Hamilton. Tuneless, but I'm going to subject you to it. Look around at how lucky we are to be alive right now. Or the words to a country song by an artist whose name I don't even know. You're going to miss this. You're going to want this back. You're going to wish these days hadn't gone by so fast. Those two songs often come to me unbidden when life is chaotic and exhausting. Amid the chaos and the drama, I'm recalled to the preciousness of the situation, the gift of being alive and in relationship, even when life is extraordinarily hard. But the most frequent scrap of song comes from Ray LaMontagne, a song called Jolene. You know this song? Jolene, I ain't about to go straight. It's too late. I found myself face down in a ditch, booze in my hair and blood on my lips, a picture of you holding a picture of me in the pocket of my blue jeans. I still don't know what love means. I still don't know what love means. That beautiful song has been stuck in my head for longer than my children have been alive, for as long as I've been a minister. Two stories. The other day, I stood at the back of the sanctuary of the church I belong to in Massachusetts, talking with another member. He said something about the candles of joy and concern that are offered on Sunday mornings there, and he lamented that the sharing isn't as deep on most Sundays as it is during the church's annual retreat up at Lake Winnipesaukee. On Sunday mornings, people speak about births and deaths and diagnoses and about their prayers for the world, beautiful offerings. But during the annual retreat, the sharing is broader and sometimes deeper. There's more space to talk about wobbly relationships or the pains of parenting or recovery from addiction. There's space to be vulnerable in the sanctuary on Sundays too, but the boundaries are naturally a little more constrained. Still, my friend wished for more openness at church and less pressure to perform. Second story. I did my internship at the Winchester Unitarian Society in Massachusetts. Winchester is a tidy, affluent town in which I felt ill at ease. There was so much polish, so much finish. The houses and the town and the people were put together, manicured. I felt like a train wreck in comparison with my chipped toenail polish and my unruly hair. The perfection around me was an illusion, of course. There is messiness in every single community, however things might appear. There is messiness and there is suffering. There's a stained glass window in the entry of the Winchester Church, an image of the Good Samaritan and the man he rescues from the Jericho Road. The rescued man lies unconscious on the back of a donkey. The Samaritan walks beside the donkey, holding the reins, and his expression is calm and gentle. I knew I wanted to preach from that story when I first arrived in Winchester, when I first saw that window. I spent an afternoon tracing it. I did a rubbing, passing a pencil across the metal outlines within the image. It was an embodied meditation on the ancient story. The tracing required me to turn my attention slowly to each element in the image: the Samaritan, the donkey, the wounded man, the two figures in the background scurrying away. The story, the familiar story, takes place on the road between Jerusalem and Jericho, a notoriously dangerous passage between the two cities. A traveler is beaten and robbed on the road and left for dead. 3 men pass him as he lies there. The first 2 avert their eyes and hurry on. The third, the Samaritan, stops, lifts the wounded man onto his donkey and brings him to a nearby inn. Then, when the time comes for the Samaritan to continue with his travels, he leaves money with the innkeeper and instructions for the wounded man's continued care, and he promises to circle back. Most sermons about this parable focus on the 3 men who encounter this wounded traveler and the choices they make, to stop or not to stop. It's a lesson on the meaning of loving your neighbor, but I believe it's also a lesson about the meaning of religious community. In Winchester, I preached into the parable from the perspective of the man left for dead by the side of the road. I explored the lessons in the story about what it feels to be blown apart by life, by a failure or a betrayal or a trauma. The wounded traveler is nameless, penniless, his senses are impaired, and he is profoundly vulnerable. I preached about what it means to find healing from that place, the wisdom in the story about how to find a path to recovery from rock bottom. The congregation leaned into this telling. Most of us have been blown apart by life at one time or another. Many of us recognize this state and long for guidance about how to navigate it. So as I said, most sermons about the Good Samaritan focus on the Samaritan's individual choice. But I began my reflection with a meditation on that window. And in stained glass, in art, the focus is usually different. Most artists choose to lift up the act of wise kindness between the Samaritan and the wounded traveler. They linger on the beauty of that encounter, on a moment of giving and receiving. I love the parable of the Good Samaritan for the same reason I love the song I mentioned earlier, Jolene, which you clearly know. There's something unflinching in its account of how hard living can be. The man on the side of the road has been brutalized. He's not even conscious. There's little clue as to his culture or his errand. That feels so spot on. That's how it sometimes feels when life lays us low, when heartbreak or failure have laid us bare. Most of us have been shaken up by life to the point where our very identity is shaken, and we have a hard time even getting our bearings. Perhaps this is due to chance, or our failings, or the failings of someone in whom we've placed our trust. Maybe due to a pandemic that upends our lives, or upheavals in our politics that upend our sense of safety, or a sudden loss. But this is the beauty of the image in the window in Winchester as it strikes me now, and the beauty of religious community. We are each character in the story over the course of a lifetime. We save others and are saved, again and again and again. Dr. Thurman had it right. The only refuge for a person is in another person's heart. Therefore, I must make of my heart a swinging door. The meeting place between people is sacred and precious, and meeting houses like this one. We come together to make space for the fullness of life just as it is. We make space for delight and grief, for laughter and devastation. We create space that allows for that meeting, that healing between people, between you as people, and between you and the communities in which you move. In a time of great upheaval, this simple, elemental encounter at the heart of religious community is precious and life-saving. How lucky we are to be alive right now, to be together, to be able to care for one another and receive care, to receive the gifts of our beautiful world and offer our gifts to the world in turn. How lucky we are to have this opportunity to gather, to return, to connect, to reconnect, to commit, to recommit. In a book by Ram Dass called How Can I Help?, Ram Dass recounts the story of a young black man and an elderly Jewish woman who form a friendship. They're brought together by a program that pairs former criminals with elders in need of support. It's called the Prodigal Program, and it brings convicted felons to work at an urban senior center. The men are serious criminals who are looking at their last chance at freedom. Here's the story of two of the participants in their own words. I come to this center for the company, I suppose, older women like myself, but I meet these boys here. Very interesting, very different than I expected. This young man who walks me home, he's a very nice boy. His mother, he should be proud of how he acts with me. I know he's done wrong. Look, they did it to me. One kid once put a gun to my head and went for my diamond ring and my wedding band. He bit my finger trying to get it off. But you know what? I wasn't angry. Maybe he never had any parents. Who knows what happened when he was very young? Who knows? But this boy, he walks me home. He helps me with my groceries. He says, wear lipstick, a nice dress. You're very pretty. You should get married again, a nice lady like you. That man in the center, he wants to get married again. He's not good enough for me, I say. You're right, he says, marry me. You're good enough, I say, but an old Jewish lady and a young black criminal, what would they think? I don't know what he sees in me to be so nice. All I know, he walks me home. We talk and joke. I learn about how things are in the world now, which I don't know much anymore. And I don't get that feeling that I'm just a little old Jewish lady. You think that's nothing? You know how many other people I don't feel like a little old lady with? None. Nobody. That's the truth. How's that? The young man says, try to shake having been a junkie and done time, man. Everywhere you go, you get that. That's who you are. But this woman, it's like she doesn't care. She says she's had a hard life, too. Maybe that's it. I told her how I robbed things. I told her about jail. She says, your mother must have been very upset. Let's get groceries. You have time to do that? Nobody ever treated me like I had anything to give, just to take. So that's all I ever did, take. This woman, she shows me something. I see courage, but she's brave living all alone, being old. She doesn't recognize just how much she understands about life. Ain't nobody ask her questions anymore now, so she forgets how much she knows. I ask her questions. She's interesting. We learn things together just looking around on the street. We have a good time. Old or young, no difference. I'm 25 and I feel old. My voice sounds old on the phone, so they say. So old people, I understand their situation a little. They're scared. I've been scared. They live alone like in a cell. I lived alone in a cell. So this place, this attitude toward life they got going in the center, it's showing me some things, and this woman too. I'm not who I always thought I was being with her, just walking her home. Her too, probably. It's like you're free for that period. You're going to have me born again, I say. She says, I'm Jewish. We're here today at the launch of the annual Pledge Drive, a span of weeks during which you pledge your support for this place and its mission, a period during which you offer your gifts of time and talent and treasure to its thriving. I encourage you to be as generous as you're able. I encourage you to trust that you are valued and cherished here for more than your pledge, but that your pledge is a good gift. The offering has always been one of my favorite parts of a service. My grandfather used to give me a $1 bill and some coins for the plate when I went to church with him and with my grandmother. I loved taking the plate in both my hands, receiving it from my neighbor in the pew, and dropping my money in, then passing it on to the person on the other side. It made me feel like part of the community. It's still does, even on those days when I don't have anything to put in and on those days when I have a lot to put in. In 2001, many years after my grandfather had stopped giving me coins for the plate, 4 planes were hijacked and crashed into the World Trade Center, the Pentagon, and a field in Pennsylvania. When that happened and the sky above Boston was quiet because all the flights had been grounded, I stumbled to church in shock. It was Arlington Street Church in Boston then. The pews were packed. I really don't remember much about what was said that evening, but I do remember the offering. I remember taking the plate in both hands and dropping something in and passing it on. It was profoundly comforting to be reminded in this visceral way that I was part of a community held together by the gifts of many people, oriented toward peace and love and justice. It was comforting to feel my connection to the people who had sustained this loving community since before I was born, and to feel my connection to those who would sustain it long after I'm gone. How lucky we are right now, amid the beauty and the hardship of life, to be connected to one another. How lucky we are to have the privilege of supporting community that shelters, sustains, and challenges us, and in which our gifts may be deployed to heal the world, which is in need of some healing. Thank you, UU Society of New Haven, for your ministry with each other and in the world. Thank you for the love and commitment you express when you show up, when you serve, when you receive, and when you give. Return, reconnect, recommit. So much is possible because of all that you are. Amen.
With this gathering, we formally begin this year's Stewardship campaign. Each year, we form a team to lead this effort. Will the members of this year's Stewardship team, Peggy Ray, Holly Hawkins, Amy Plapp, and John Watson, please come forward. Linda Mehta could not be here today. Oh, and Sue Bond. I have an old list. These are the few brave souls who have agreed to perform the tasks, organize the events, write the appeals, lick the envelopes, or if we still have those, of the campaign, but they are not the campaign. The real essence of the campaign, searching the heart, doing the work, and learning the lessons of generosity, making the pledges, must be done by each of you, members and friends. We call the team to help us be our best selves in this essential part of our community's life. Please join with me and the members of your stewardship team in our charge to them to serve and challenge us to return, reconnect, and recommit to building up this beloved community. Please read with them the words printed in your order of service. As members and friends of USNH, we value this place and community. In this place, our spirits are nourished. Compassion leads us to loving actions. Connections within our community and beyond strengthen and transform us. In this place, questing minds, young and old, learn and thrive. With infectious courage, we inspire each other to work for justice beyond these walls. This is our beloved community, and we are its stewards. Our gifts of talents and treasure sustain it and enable it to grow. For ourselves and for those, we join together in gratitude and generosity pledge our support for USNH to work to ensure financial help of this, our beloved community. Thank you.
I invite you to rise in body, in spirit, and in all the ways we do, and join me in singing hymn number 1028 in the Teal hymnal, Fire of Commitment.
We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
I invite you now to rise in body or in spirit for the benediction. May you go out into the waiting day, touched by the peace of this place and held in its love. May you go out into the waiting day, bringing peace and love out with you into a bruised but beautiful world. May you go in love this day. May you go in peace. Amen.